A quiet new year. As the clock strikes midnight, the world enters a new year. Fireworks light up the sky in New York. Crowds cheer in London. Tokyo counts down in perfect unison. Cities glow, screens flash, champagne flows. But behind the celebrations, behind the speeches and the smiles, something else is happening. While millions celebrate, governments around the world are not raising glasses. They are reviewing contingency plans. They are analyzing intelligence reports. They are quietly preparing for what comes next. Because 2026 does not begin with confidence. It begins with caution. This is not a story about war. It is not a prediction. It is not fear. This is a story about signals. Signals hidden in speeches, in policy changes, in budget reallocations, in words chosen carefully, and those left unsaid. As the world enters 2026, global leaders are telling us something. Not loudly, not clearly, but unmistakably. The global mood. For decades, the world entered New Year's with optimism, promises of growth, talk of cooperation, hope for stability. But the tone has changed. In recent months, leaders across continents have begun using the same language. Words like resilience, preparedness, self-reliance, strategic autonomy. These are not the words of celebration. They are the words of systems under pressure. Governments are no longer planning for prosperity first. They are planning for disruption. Global supply chains remain fragile. Energy systems are vulnerable. Cyber infrastructure is under constant threat. Trust between nations is thinner than it has been in decades. And perhaps most importantly, the public sense of certainty has disappeared. Citizens feel it, markets reflect it, institutions quietly acknowledge it. The world is not collapsing, but it is bracing. The United States. In the United States, the message is layered. Publicly, leaders speak of strength, of recovery, of leadership. Privately, the focus is different. America enters 2026 preparing for complexity. Not one enemy, not one crisis, but many overlapping risks. Cybersecurity has moved to the center of national defense. Critical infrastructure protection is now treated as a frontline issue. Power grids, financial systems, communication networks. The concern is no longer if they are targeted, but when. Military planning reflects the same shift. The emphasis is not on large-scale invasions, but on deterrence, readiness, and rapid response. Meanwhile, domestic stability has become a strategic priority. Economic inequality, political polarization, public trust in institutions. These are no longer just social issues. They are national security concerns. As 2026 begins, the United States is preparing not for a single defining event, but for sustained uncertainty. China. In China, the tone is disciplined and controlled. Official statements emphasize stability, development, long-term planning. But beneath the surface, the message is unmistakable. China is preparing for endurance. Economic self-sufficiency is no longer a goal. It is a necessity. Supply chains are being reshaped. Strategic reserves expanded. Technological independence accelerated. Military modernization continues quietly but relentlessly. Naval capacity, missile defense, cyber and space capabilities. The objective is not confrontation, it is leverage. China enters 2026 prepared to operate in a world where cooperation cannot be assumed, where pressure is constant, and resilience determines power. The message is subtle but clear. China is planning for a long game. Russia. Russia enters 2026 with a worldview shaped by isolation. Official rhetoric speaks of sovereignty, of strength, of resistance. Internally, the focus is on survival. Economic systems are adapted to sanctions. Domestic production is prioritized over integration. Military readiness remains central, but perhaps most revealing is the emphasis on continuity. ensuring command structures remain intact, ensuring energy exports continue, ensuring internal control is maintained. Russia is not planning for expansion, it is planning for persistence. In a world it believes is hostile, the priority is endurance. Europe enters 2026 with a quiet sense of urgency. For years, stability was assumed, security outsourced, energy imported. Those assumptions are gone. Defense spending has increased across the continent. Military coordination is deeper than at any point since the Cold War. But Europe's preparation goes beyond weapons. Energy independence is now strategic doctrine. Food security is openly discussed. Critical infrastructure protection has become a priority. The European Union speaks increasingly with one voice on resilience, not because unity is easy, but because fragmentation is dangerous. Europe understands something fundamental. In the coming years, prepared societies will endure, unprepared ones will fracture. The Middle East and Asia. Across the Middle East, preparation takes many forms. Some nations fortify borders, others diversify alliances. All invest heavily in internal security. The lesson of recent years is clear. Instability spreads quickly. In Asia, economic powerhouses reinforce trade routes while expanding military readiness. Shipping lanes, semiconductor supply chains, energy flows. These are treated as strategic assets. The focus is not dominance, it is continuity. The Global South, for much of the Global South, 2026 brings both opportunity and risk. New alliances, alternative economic blocks, infrastructure investments, but also vulnerability, debt pressures, climate stress, dependence on global systems beyond their control. Governments prepare for shocks they did not create. Food shortages, currency instability, supply disruptions. The message is simple. When global systems strain, the weakest feel it first. The common thread. Across nations, cultures, and ideologies, a pattern emerges. Governments are preparing for disruption, not catastrophe. They are planning for stress, not collapse. The threats are not singular, they are cumulative. Cyber incidents, economic shocks, regional conflicts, climate pressures. No single event defines the future, but together they reshape it. What is not being said? Perhaps the most telling signals are not spoken at all. There are fewer promises, fewer grand visions, less talk of inevitability. Instead, there is preparation, contingency planning, redundancy, resilience. Governments do not prepare like this without reason. They do not invest quietly without concern. They do not change doctrine without pressure. 2026 is not presented as a year of transformation. It is presented as a year to endure, a different kind of future. As the world enters 2026, there is no single warning, no unified alarm. Instead, there is something more subtle, a shared understanding that stability can no longer be taken for granted, that resilience matters more than optimism, that preparation matters more than prediction. The future is not written, but the signals are there, and they tell us one thing. The world is not ending, but it is changing. Quietly, carefully, and permanently.